It was a cold, starless night on the city streets of New Eden, a sprawling metropolis on the edge of human expansion. The neon lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the bustling market squares, while the hum of hovercrafts echoed through the air. The city had everything: wealth, power, and innovation. But it was also a place of stark contrast, where the poor and the forgotten lived in the underbelly of society, hidden away from the glittering towers above. I had just finished a long day at the laboratory, working on a new project that would revolutionize energy production. My mind was preoccupied with the future of human technology, and I didn't expect the night to offer any surprises. But as I passed down one of the less visited alleyways, a faint sound caught my attention: soft, pitiful sobs. I followed the sound, my curiosity growing. As I turned a corner, I stopped dead in my tracks. There, huddled in a corner, was a figure unlike any I had ever seen. A woman, but not human. A being from another world, her delicate features distorted by hunger and pain. She was alien, her skin shimmering with an iridescent glow, her eyes large and filled with desperation. Her clothes were torn, her body thin and frail, and her face streaked with tears. She was crouched low, her hands trembling as they clutched at her stomach. She was crying, not just from hunger, but from a deep, soul-crushing sorrow. She was begging for help, her voice faint but filled with a mixture of foreign desperation and human emotion. "Please, help me," she whispered, her words broken and incomprehensible, but the pain in her eyes spoke volumes. I hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to do. I had never seen an alien like her before, not in person. My life had been immersed in the study of extraterrestrial technology, but I had never encountered an actual being from another planet. But there was something about her, something that tugged at my heart. She was in desperate need, and I couldn't just walk away. I knelt beside her, trying to communicate, though I had no idea what language she spoke. But she looked up at me, her eyes locking with mine, and I felt an inexplicable connection. A part of me knew she was different. She was not a threat, not an invader. She was a soul, lost in a world that didn't understand her. "You're hungry, aren't you?" I said softly, even though I didn't expect her to understand the words. I gently touched her shoulder, offering what little comfort I could. To my surprise, she nodded weakly. Her alien features seemed to soften, and for a brief moment, I saw the flicker of hope in her eyes. But it was quickly replaced by despair. She shook her head, her frail body trembling. "I don't belong here," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I was cast out, abandoned. My people, they left me." I felt a surge of empathy flood through me, and without a second thought, I made my decision. "Come with me," I said, offering my hand. "I'll help you. You don't have to be alone anymore." She stared at my outstretched hand for a long moment, as if weighing her options. Then, with a fragile nod, she took my hand and allowed me to help her up. I led her back to my small apartment in the lower levels of the city, away from the prying eyes of the wealthy elites above. Once inside, I set her down gently on the couch and went to fetch some food. I knew it wouldn't be much, but it was better than nothing. I had no idea where she came from, what species she was, or why she had been abandoned in the streets, but I couldn't turn my back on her. She ate ravenously, her hands shaking as she tore into the food I had prepared. She seemed almost starved, not just for food, but for compassion. After she finished, I sat beside her, watching as she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Her glowing skin shimmered faintly under the dim lights, and I could see the exhaustion in her eyes. I don't know how to repay you," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "I have nothing to give." I shook my head, brushing aside her words. "You don't need to repay me. I'm just glad you're safe now." You're not alone anymore." She looked at me, her eyes filled with gratitude and something else, something deep, like a longing to be understood. She spoke again, her voice more steady this time, though still tinged with sorrow. "My name is Elara," she said, her voice soft but firm. "I am from the planet Selene. My people, they left me when I could no longer keep up. I was part of an expedition to explore your world, but they abandoned me when I fell ill. I have nowhere else to go." The truth of her story hit me like a wave. I could see the weight of her words and the way her shoulders slumped, the sadness that radiated from her. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be cast aside by your own people, left to die on a foreign planet, with no one to turn to. "You don't have to go back there," I said, my voice firm. "You have a place here now. You don't have to be alone. You have me." Elara looked up at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. For the first time since I had found her, I saw a flicker of real hope in her gaze. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely a sound, but it carried more weight than any words could convey. I didn't think I would ever find kindness again. Over the next few weeks, Elara and I grew closer. She shared more of her story with me, the pain of being left behind, the fear of being forgotten. But she also showed me the strength she had within her. Her species was far more advanced than mine, and as we spent more time together, I learned from her. She taught me things about the universe, about the stars, and about the bonds that connected all living beings, regardless of their origin. But more than anything, Elara showed me the power of compassion and the deep connection that could exist between two souls, even if they came from different worlds. I didn't know what the future held, or if her people would ever come back for her. But as I looked at Elara, this extraordinary, broken woman who had once been abandoned on the streets of a cold, indifferent city, I knew one thing. I would never let her be alone again. She had found a place in my heart, and I had found a new purpose. And together, we would discover the mysteries of the stars, hand in hand.